The Mark David Chapman, Scared Face, Killer uncover the darkest crimes, shocking mysteries, and real-life investigations. Welcome to Fame Files, Heart, where truth is more terrifying than fiction. Fame Files cover all the true crime stories of the whole world with you on this channel. Stay connected with us and keep watching daily true crime stories on Fame Files. The Man Who Killed a Legend, the Mark David Chapman story, a true crime documentary. Introduction. On December 8, 1980, the world lost a legend. John Lennon, former Beatle and peace activist, was shot and killed outside his home in New York City. The man who pulled the trigger. A quiet, seemingly ordinary young man named Mark David Chapman. But beneath the surface lurked an obsession that would turn deadly. Early life of Mark David Chapman. Mark David Chapman was born on May 10, 1955, in Fort Worth, Texas. Raised in a strict religious household, his childhood was marked by turmoil. His father, a U.S. Air Force sergeant, was reportedly abusive, while his mother worked as a nurse. As a child, Chapman found solace in books, music, and fantasy worlds. Interviews with psychologists or crime experts. Expert 1, Chapman struggled with self-identity and isolation. He sought escape through the Beatles' music, but also wrestled with deep feelings of unworthiness and self-hatred. A fan-turned-obsessed, Chapman was a longtime fan of the Beatles, but his admiration soured when John Lennon made his infamous 1966 statement that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus. Chapman, a born-again Christian at the time, felt personally betrayed. Over the years, his resentment grew. Narrator. Another influence that shaped Chapman's mind was J.D. Salinger's novel, The Catcher in the Rye. He began to see himself as Holden Caulfield, a self-proclaimed protector of innocence. In his delusional mind, he saw Lennon as a phony, someone who preached peace but lived in wealth and luxury. Narrator. By late 1980, Chapman had made up his mind, he was going to kill John Lennon. December 8, 1980, the assassination. Chapman flew to New York City in early December. On the morning of December 8, he waited outside Lennon's apartment, the Dakota, for hours. That afternoon, he approached John Lennon and asked him to sign a copy of Double Fantasy. Lennon obliged, never realizing he was signing for his future killer. Narrator. Hours later, at 10:50 p.m., as Lennon and his wife Yoko Ono returned home, Chapman called out, "Mr. Lennon." As Lennon turned, Chapman fired 5 shots, 4 of which struck Lennon. He collapsed at the entrance of the Dakota. Narrator. Instead of fleeing, Chapman remained at the scene. He calmly pulled out his copy of The Catcher in the Rye and began reading, waiting for the police to arrive. The aftermath. John Lennon was pronounced dead at Roosevelt Hospital at 11:15 p.m. The world mourned the loss of a musical icon, and Mark David Chapman became one of the most infamous criminals of the 20th century. Narrator. Chapman later pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison. Since then, he has been denied parole multiple times. Inside the mind of a killer, Chapman wasn't motivated by money or revenge. He was driven by a twisted sense of purpose, wanting to be remembered, to be part of history. In his own words, he felt like nobody until he pulled the trigger. Narrator. More than 4 decades later, John Lennon's music lives on, while Chapman remains behind bars, a man whose name is remembered for one act of violence, rather than a lifetime of anonymity. Conclusion. Mark David Chapman may have ended John Lennon's life, but he could never silence his legacy. Lennon's message of love and peace remains stronger than the bullets that took him away. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more true crime and celebrities stories.